We're
All
live.
right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I am with the great and talented Niko House. Niko, how are you today?
Where that guy at? He coming? He coming to the? Is he gonna be here soon? I ain't know if it's gonna be competition. I don't know about great and talented, but I am Niko, man. What's going on, HA? Thanks for having me on. I
Of
appreciate it. I
course.
think this is the first time I've been on your channel.
No, I think no. You've been on before.
I don't know. You've been on mine, and we were on Tim's together. But I think that it might be the first time, man. This might be the first time.
No, I interviewed you. We'll talk about that later. It's about a topic regarding
Yeah.
okay,
Funny. That's a
so
funny story, by the way.
a topic
That
that we
that
shall
topic
not.
came up today.
Oh, okay,
Like
but
in public. Like I found like I ran into one of my friends, and yeah, that was
well,
interesting.
how are you? I don't want to get too deep into it because I know that you can't legally, but like you got into you got into an unfair situation where you were injured. First of all, how are you doing? How's your shoulder? How's everything?
Well, it's seriously crippled my high five game. My high five game is weak now. I gotta do the low fives. I can't do the high fives. But for those of you who do not know, I was attacked by police officers and put into a hospital. Um, I wasn't guilty of anything. They assumed I was guilty of something. Um, if you're interested to know, the only two people who were arrested was the black guy who told the cops to put his gun away, and then myself, who was trying to actually stop an altercation. The girls who all jumped on the cops, the white women who jumped on the cops, didn't actually nothing happened to them. And I was put in the hospital for a couple of days and tore my rotator cuff, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all.
How are you feeling now?
I'm recovering. I'm recovering. Emotionally, it was a lot because that was like the fourth time that's happened in about 7 years to me. So, it gets emotionally draining after all. The first time you just kind of shrug it off, and it happens to everybody. Everybody gets beat up by cops, right? And then second time I was like, maybe it was my fault. And the third time it happens, just like, okay, this is getting old. And then this most recent time, it just was kind of like, you know, pushed it over the top, especially because considering like, I had friends there who witnessed it. They were worried about me. Like I said, the cops tried to pull out their gun to take me down almost immediately.
Wow. That's crazy, man. Well, thank God you're okay, and thank God you're feeling well. Hopefully, you're going to get better very soon. Um, what do you think of everything taking place with Mueller and Russia and the FBI and everything like that?
Man, look. what HA, man, how did you predict? Yeah, a little question flip on you. Let's pull a little Richard Spencer on you. How do you predict BuzzFeed suing the DNC? Did you have an insider tip?
Well, I wish I did predict. I mean, I wish I did predict that, but I think it's fantastic that it's come full circle.
Because I remember you distinctively, you said the only way that BuzzFeed is going to be able to defend themselves. I distinctively remember that. I thought I'm like, how do you get that one right?
Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate it.
You do so many videos, you probably forgot that you did it. Like, but seriously, you had a whole video. That was actually one of your longer, when you started doing the longer videos. But you predicted BuzzFeed was going to have to sue the DNC because you said that was the only way that they were going to be able to save face going forward, which is funny. The investigation is once again, I rarely find myself agreeing with Trump unless it's about Russiagate. He said the investigation is ludicrous and alluding that Mueller should be fired and that Andrew McCabe should have been fired. I say for the first time ever, Trump hasn't gone far enough. I think Andrew McCabe should be in jail. I think Mueller should be in jail. I think James Comey should absolutely be in jail. And I feel like anyone who holds an intelligence position or a position of authority or is representative of the institutions that are supposed to keep this country intact, integrity-wise. I think when you conspire against the office of the United States of America, I don't care if it's Donald Trump, I don't care if it's Hillary Clinton, I don't care if it's Bernie Sanders, I don't care if it's damn Hitler. You don't conspire against the office. Well, I do care if it's Hitler, but you don't conspire against the office of the United States of America while putting on the guise that you are doing it for the interests of the people, and then specifically lying.
And
so you should be in jail.
You've had a security clearance before, correct?
Yes, top secret.
Okay, and if you were to act in the way Clinton acted, what would happen to you?
Oh, I don't have to give you anecdotal evidence. I could tell you for a fact, while I was a paralegal in the military, someone accidentally sent an email, accidentally. It was a private. Sent it unencrypted, ended up at Camp Lejeune for 2 years.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wait, so he went to jail for 2 years?
Mm-hmm. He's actually a friend I went to high school with, too. Funny, Went to Camp Lejeune for 2 years.
And what happens? What happens in the military? Like, I know military justice is different from if you're a civilian.
So you essentially, in that scenario, so he was Navy, so he would have gotten it's called Captain's Mass. For the Army, that would be our version of a field grade Article 15. But we don't, even for Article 15, going to jail is a lot. But when it comes to top secret documents, especially for the Navy, and then I was in an intelligence unit, which is what made it worse. They don't play about that because people, as Hillary Clinton found out, the spies that were killed overseas because she said their names in the email, like lives are at stake when you're talking about that type of stuff. And that's why they take it so seriously. It's not just about a matter of national security. It's about the security of people who are actively involved in those military operations. And she put a lot of them in danger.
Now, what do you think? Like, I agree 100% with you. I think they all need to go to jail, or they all need to be investigated. But it's interesting how, like, the Office of Professional Responsibility at the FBI got McCabe. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's kind of hilarious.
I felt that's probably the best way I can describe it. It's hilarious and frustrating, I guess, at the same time, because it's these the false equivocations versus the real equivocations, right? So remember when the 13 indictments came through, random Russian troll farm with people who didn't even work there anymore and hadn't worked there for literally years being indicted. And then they was like, that means Trump is going down. It's like, hold up, that's what you read in this? I read that that Mueller is desperate and is trying to give a reason to stay. But literally, as this news breaks about the Office of Professional Responsibility and Andrew McCabe, they still equate the FBI recommending that McCabe be fired, not Trump, not Sessions, who, by the way, is establishment and would never recommend that on his own accord, as he's proven, right? We don't have to disagree. It wasn't even the Inspector General. The Inspector General just did the investigation because at that point, they got put in such a precarious predicament. It's like, bro, we have text messages. What do you want me to do? So everybody was put in such a position that, and of course, there's an internal struggle going on within the FBI as well. So when the Office of Professional Responsibility came out and recommended that dismissal, it wasn't even that they just recommended, hey, we want him to be fired because of the investigation. No, they gave a very clear and distinct reason. He lied under oath. And he acted without candor.
About Comey said, hey, I didn't authorize any leaks. And McCabe said, yeah, I leaked.
Yeah. Yep. And he leaked and specifically, he lied about authorizing leaks to the media. And McCabe said specifically, James Comey said that he didn't authorize any leaks to the media. And then Andrew McCabe specifically came out and totally contradicted that. Boy, he threw Comey all the way under the bus, which is why I think that, the domino, ironically enough, the domino effect that Mueller is trying to incite, he's arresting people to get people to snitch on other people, even though there's absolutely nothing that they have on any of them. And that's why it's so hard for him to get it done. Meanwhile, text messages come out and somebody's fired the next damn day, after a proper investigation was taking place. And I will say this though, Trump probably put himself, as far as from a political analysis standpoint, he came out and is coming out on top beyond belief, because you're going into the primary election. You're beating this Russia investigation. The Senate Judiciary Committee or the Senate Intelligence Committee already cleared you. Andrew McCabe, who was in charge of your investigation, turned out he had conflict of interest. James Comey, clearly, if he put McCabe in charge, he had conflict of interest. Robert Mueller is floating in the ocean by himself right now because McCabe isn't there to protect him anymore. They can threaten all he wants to. And then somebody threatened impeachment, like, oh, if you fire Mueller, that's impeachment. No, Mueller has no reason to be there anymore. He was originally hired to investigate James Comey's firing. And now we just kind of like lump him into, oh, yeah, that means investigating Russiagate as well. That's not what he was brought there for. In fact, that was Andrew McCabe's job. And the reason that Andrew McCabe was fired because he pursued that responsibility because of political agendas. So we still haven't seen any information, and I'm really interested to see that IG report. That's like damn near as important as the memo, because I think it's going to reveal a lot. I'll tell you,
I wish you were writing the IG report.
Why do you say that?
Because you were either part of the military justice team, right?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Okay. So
the JAG Corps. Yeah.
See, like the show JAG a couple years back.
That was right? Navy, but yeah, similar. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So my whole thing is like, I'm pretty sure the IG is gonna royally screw them. But if you had written the report, you could actually link all the crimes committed to military statutes, which I guess, you know what, maybe it wouldn't, so I guess it wouldn't apply to Clinton, but it would be interesting to see.
Actually, I don't know if it wouldn't apply to Clinton.
Okay.
The only reason why is because the State Department has a lot of like military-esque employment under them. So like I can be in the military and still be working for the State Department on a special assignment. Oftentimes people who go to Africa that are in the military, if they're not special forces, they're working under the State Department. So the president technically could be tried under UCMJ because not only is he obviously the president of the United States, which is, you know, the operative prefix being preside. He's supposed to preside over the goings on, but he's also the commander in chief. And so therefore he is subject to UCMJ. That's why.
So Obama would have been subject to.
If they really wanted, or anybody, they could impeach him based off of past behaviors if they chose to. Nobody would ever do that. It's too petty to do that. But impeachment is merely the process of starting an investigation to see if you want to remove somebody. So if you feel like someone is conducting conduct unbecoming of an officer, I can't remember what article that is, but I think you would essentially in the military world, you would have an Article 32 hearing and be removed and decommissioned because that's what the president is. The president, the reason you salute him when you walk up to him is because he's the highest ranking officer, if you will.
But if anyone in the military helped facilitate the transfer of classified intelligence to Clinton, they're screwed.
Oh God, yeah, because you're going to get tried twice. You get tried civilian world under federal law, and then you get tried for UCMJ, and you're going to have to serve time for both, and you have to have two different attorneys. Because even though a military attorney may be able to argue civilian law, oftentimes it's not the other way around.
An admiral. But it isn't if a person is like Admiral Michael Rogers of the Navy, is he still subject to military law?
Is he still in the Navy?
Well, I believe so.
If he is still in the Navy,
he's NSA chief.
Or so if he's still so he probably retired from the Navy. Oh, then yeah, retirees, anybody collecting a paycheck from the VA is still subject to UCMJ.
Because the interesting thing is, this is it's on Amazon. I wrote a book, But Her Top Secret Emails and But Her Deleted Emails, about this. And the books are still doing well. But the interesting, really, really interesting thing is, Niko, that Cheryl Mills met with 7 NSA officials to get Clinton's BlackBerry to work. And so Admiral Rogers was heading the NSA at that point. So there's a virtual, it's certain the NSA knew because they're like, well, get this BlackBerry to work. And the NSA is like, no, you
want
can't
to
use
get
it.
really nitpicky. If I was a judge who really wanted to come down on like elitists, like getting away with everything. Like, so for example, where you have a situation where maybe the judge used to be enlisted. And so he knows exactly how enlisted get treated compared to officers who have been in and had their time in. And they oftentimes, when they get dismissed or discharged, they get to keep their retirement. You know, they're not getting punished. They're getting forcibly removed with what they would call a resignation. Now, if there was like a guy who wanted to be a stickler, oh no, you would try him in federal court of law. You would try him in the UCMJ as well, which is Uniform Code of Military Justice. And he would be in jail for a long time.
And so,
and he will forfeit his retirement.
And so, okay, so I'm not being facetious. I'm not. Let's just. How many years in prison for this? Okay, and you just give me, because you have the legal background on this. Give me the year total. Hillary Clinton had over 2,000 retroactively classified emails, but she had 110 email chains that were born classified for the moment they were sent to her. Then she had 22 top secret emails, and then she had special access program intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So she had over 2,000 classified emails. She had over 2,000 and 22 top secret, and then special access program intelligence. And she had emails that were classified from the start, the moment they were written, sent to her. If she was an Army private, how many years would that be?
Long enough for him to retire and then retire again and then retire again and then retire again and then die in jail still.
So
like I said, a guy got sent to jail for one email accidentally, because you're just factoring what she sent. You're not factoring the fact that there was clear intent. She destroyed things.
An army private, if they had 2,000 classified emails plus top secret intelligence plus special access program, it could theoretically be over 100 years.
Oh, well over. They would in the officer's case, they would cut a deal, resign or do this amount of years and resign. But even then, that's a lot. Because like I said, you have to deal with the obstruction of justice charge that in any other scenario would have come about. You tried to destroy evidence, and it's clear that you try to destroy evidence. And so not only you have obstruction of justice, and of course, if I'm the lawyer, I'm gonna be a dick. Not only am I gonna get you obstruction of justice, but I'm gonna get you with conspiracy for obstruction of justice. And then not only am I gonna get you because in the military, when it comes to UCMJ, neglect is actually a serious crime because it costs lives.
What did you say is a serious crime?
Neglect.
But an officer would still obviously serve prison time also.
Yeah. It would be hard. It's because like I said, officers get preferential treatment. That's the only reason I'm saying it shouldn't be different. But officers get preferential treatment because they're seen as equals. Because the judge is an officer, usually a colonel. And so the judge would give them preferential treatment because they have a family and blah blah blah, and the extenuating circumstances. Yeah, that's not how it goes with privates. But neglect. Why do you think they changed the words? What did Andrew McCabe change the words to in the investigation? Careless he changed it to extreme.
Peter Strzok changed it to extreme carelessness over gross negligence, which is 793F of the Espionage Act.
Yeah, and that's just the Espionage Act. Like I said, that's not even UCMJ. Like UCMJ, that is a law as well. So like I said, in a truly just world, there would be a lot of people actually charged in both the military world and in the civilian world. And it's not happening because that's the level of corruption we're at. It seems like our institutions don't have any integrity because they're too busy protecting each other. But in my opinion, it's crazy that you see these kind of people walk home free, and then you see people getting arrested for having weed on them and going to jail for 5 years and having their lives ruined. It's insane. Off with felonies, depending on how much they have.
And your friend went to jail for 2 years was it only, if you don't mind me asking, or if you can explain, was it only an email that was unencrypted?
Yeah, to my knowledge, it was only an email that was unencrypted.
Because her actual server was unencrypted for 3 months.
Yeah, which is why everybody told her not to have it. That's because they knew. Why do you go through all this much trouble to hide something? Unless you knew, if we get busted, this is going.
And so here's what are the chances you think that the entire planet hacked that unencrypted server?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what literally we're constantly, because it's not even just, are they doing it just to be, assholes? No, they're doing it because we're doing it constantly to them. And so we're always, it's a constant intelligence battle going on, which is why that stuff is taken so seriously. You could be hacked at any moment in time, and you are the Secretary of State, and you are, everybody knows that you have dirty secrets. You know, because it's not just any secretary. This isn't like John Kerry. John Kerry's like, whatever. This is Hillary freaking Clinton, whose husband is, as we speak or as we spoke, was traveling the world organizing for Uranium One, cutting deals with the Ukraine.
And Colin Powell said he's still dicking bimbos.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody knows what the Clintons are about. So why wouldn't you attempt to hack her emails to have, at the very bare minimum, blackmail against her?
I always make an issue, like I do 20-minute segments on just this issue. If you were like, see, Anthony Weiner, the whole laptop thing, I can't get enough of it, because from your experience in the military and military justice, if an officer, let's say an officer, was using a laptop outside the U.S. government to send pictures of his penis, and then also they found 18 classified emails on Abedin's and Anthony Weiner's laptop.
Yo, funny enough, that actually half of that story did happen. I'm serious. I was part of an Article 32 hearing for a warrant officer where that half of that story did happen.
Oh,
I'm not talking about the classified emails part. It was to his wife, though. You know, it's cool. Whatever. He wasn't cheating or anything. It just got a little freaky, man. It was nighttime, a little nightcap. That's what I'm saying. You know, I'm gonna leave it at that.
But I mean, like, isn't it insane how, like, they're like, Anthony Weiner had a laptop that he utilized to just, you know, sext women and send photos, and in that laptop there was classified U.S. intelligence.
That's so weird, by the way. Like, why were you even sending top secret emails off? It's pure laziness. And
well, I don't know if it was top secret, but it's 18 classified emails. I don't know the classification.
I mean, but if they're classified, so well, and of course it depends on the level of classification, but you still shouldn't be sending classified emails off your personal laptop. Like, I would never even think that. They laugh at you if you even talking about, if you don't have a BlackBerry, they laugh at you if you ask, oh, can you link my email to my cell phone? Like, not even your, like, what we call the like, you get an email as soon as you get to basic training, and you're not even allowed to link that to your cell phone.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Most of the time you can't access your email without your CAT card. At least in my unit you couldn't, which is like the active duty military ID.
What happens if you just forward an email to your Gmail or whatever?
If you're private, you're gonna go to jail. If you're an officer, they're gonna come after you.
Even if it's not classified?
Oh, if you just a regular email?
Yeah.
You shouldn't do it. I'm gonna put it like that, because it could be linked to a chain of emails where one of the emails in that chain is classified.
If you forward a classified email, you're fucked.
If you forward a classified, yeah, you're screwed. Because they can easily track it. We have a whole department.
Who can
track it? We have something called S6. It's like the communications department in any given military unit or army unit specifically, where they can track stuff like that. They know some, and some are so vast that you know almost immediately whenever someone sends an encrypt or email that was supposed to be encrypted and then it wasn't.
Let me ask you this. This is really interesting. How many statutes are there for classified intelligence?
Oh, man, look, that's one of those things where you just bring out the books, you know, because we have to follow both federal law and UCMJ. And that's not even included. So you have each installation has their own laws. Does that make sense?
The installation of what?
So each installation of so Fort Bliss, Fort Bragg, they all have their own individual laws.
Oh.
And even in your MOS, even in your job, you have your own individual laws.
So different military bases have their own separate law, legal statutes.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so it's like federal versus state. So like overall, they follow the AR, which is the Army regulations, but in the different installations, because it's different circumstances, they take, like for my for my unit, and in Arizona, for example, which is where intel people are trained, those are two serious areas where if you slip up even a little bit with intel, you're going down, because they have to make an example of you, because they can't have that happening.
And it doesn't matter if you're an officer or anything, you're still going down.
I can't say that it absolutely would not matter if you were an officer. It shouldn't matter, and in regards to the UCMJ, it shouldn't matter. However, you know how the laws apply. It's applied to the peons get peed on, and the elites, it depends on who's judging them at that time. UCMJ law isn't any different. I'm sure you just read court martials are given disproportionately to black people, and black people are put in jail disproportionately in the military, just like they are in the real world. So all those biases and those preferential treatment that you see in the real world when it comes to elite, when it comes to race, sex, whatever, that's carries over into the military world as well. So unfortunately, you do have some of that still goes on.
And can you explain? Do you know the story of Christian Saucier, the sailor?
I don't think so.
Well, the submarine, the guy in the submarine who he took the photos of the submarine engine. It was just actually
yes, I do remember.
Trump just pardoned him. That was an interesting one. This has been absolutely fascinating talking to you about it. What do you think? Because I think Trump's going to fire Mueller like any day now, any week.
Oh yeah, I think that's why Trump's lawyer left. I don't know if you saw it today.
He doesn't want the heat.
He doesn't want to. Who wants to deal with that? And that dude's old too. He's like ready to retire. Like, damn it, I did not want to deal with this, and it's not even worth that amount of money. I don't even think that. I don't even understand how it's a debate, though. I don't understand why you did not do your job. What else? Because let's just say, for example, maybe Mueller is on the up and up. Yo, you started this entire investigation because you had such conclusive evidence, right? You had such conclusive evidence that this would be. And if you had, I will put it like this: in any investigation, like where you're trying to actually get an indictment or something out of it, if you have such conclusive evidence, why didn't you show it? Why are you showing your hand? Y'all, the indictments that you got recently came from stuff from 2014, and we didn't know about it because they didn't talk about it because it's an ongoing investigation. But yet every time you make a huge breakthrough in the Russiagate breakthrough, with quotations, in the Russiagate scandal, it's all over the news.
Yeah. Because
you want to convince people that you're doing your job. But if you had the evidence that you supposedly said you had, with the 17 intelligence agencies all agreeing on it because the evidence was just that strong, why the hell is it taking you a year and a half to do something that should have been open and shut? Because it was so clear. And it's been so clear to everybody. And according to Rachel Maddow, it's clear that Trump has he sold our state out to Putin. It's crazy to me because, CBS the other day covered Russia's elections, and they said it was like a farce. And there's a good chance that it may have been. Wouldn't be surprised, because I look at us as a superpower. Then I look at the other superpowers, and pretty much every election in any superpower nation is a motherfucking farce. Profanity alert! Sorry guys, I apologize. But seriously, I was like, it's so crazy that all of a sudden,
they need to do it the way the DNC does it, the right way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you need to cheat before the cameras are on you, not afterwards. Like, you don't now you care about election because Putin's up for real. They care about Russia's elections because they know that Russians like Putin. They do. They really, really like him, and because they feel like their country has become strong under him again. Which there's an element of truth to that.
Are you familiar, Niko, with the polonium poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko in 2006? He was a Russian dissident, and the FSB.
Was a double agent that got poisoned recently.
Yeah, well, he was critical. I think he used to be part of Russian intelligence, and he was critical of Putin. And then he got this. He was poisoned by this chemical compound. It's this radioactive, compound, and they found out it was polonium, and it came from the higher ups at Russian intelligence. and he died in 2006. It was like a horrible death, like within a week. Like he just got sick, and it was just horrible. And then in 2010, we sold them 20% of U.S. uranium capacity.
Yeah, we were so scared then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not one of those people who thinks that Putin wouldn't commit a political assassination, because I don't think that our leaders are exempt from that. So why would I think that? People think that like, oh, I love. I don't love Putin. I think Putin is as moral and ethical as any leader that we've had in this country, and unfortunately, that's not a very high bar to meet. Like I said, it's a country where we claim to have the righteous position during the Cold War. At the same time, we quite literally and the righteous position when it came to Cuba. At the same time, we were fighting against Nelson Mandela in the apartheid. This is that same country, like we critiqued Fidel Castro so harshly while he was simultaneously, just as an anecdotal evidence, he was literally he was the reason that they desegregated in Cuba, which was achieved before we did it. So we were still segregated, critiquing somebody like Fidel Castro because it's American imperialism stuff. But I don't go into all that. But
that's the funny thing when they say, "Oh well, this information about our corruption helps the Russians." Yeah, during the Cold War, the Soviets would say, "Hey, you have a racist society. You're segregated." So
how about just not be segregated in races? Like then they don't have any ammo. Like don't have corrupt elections. Elect the person who actually won. Then Russians don't have any ammo, do they? How about you actually give real education or give people a chance to achieve some type of real education? We have fake education, horrible education systems, horribly funded education systems, and you're like, oh, well, how are they so easy to subject to corruption and influence? I don't know. Maybe because you've been subjecting them to BS influence for their entire lives, and they're taught to accept authority and not think critically. And maybe if Russia could influence the outcome of the election, our elites would have a direct hand in that. I feel like the Russiagate situation and how out of control it's gotten is a direct representation of like why our gun violence problem hasn't been solved. We failed politically. Our politicians have failed us. Economically, our politicians have failed us. We are looking.
Thank God, Democrats are focused on fixing DACA.
Right? Yeah, they're doing such a good job that they conceded it. Like and don't get me wrong either. Though I hope that nobody here is holding their breath for Trump to get rid of it. Because I know y'all probably don't remember this, but remember like 7 months ago he was so adamant about it, and then y'all just didn't hear about it again until the lockout happened. I don't know if y'all know this, but he's not getting rid of DACA because Bibi don't want him to get rid of DACA. Netanyahu loves him some DACA. And AIPAC has made their position pretty clear on DACA. So it's not going anywhere. So y'all should rejoice, but don't get excited because it's here to stay. And in fact, it may even get enhanced under Trump because that's what Israel and AIPAC want. And he's actually really good friends with them, and they help fund his campaign. They help, that's politics. I'm just being honest with you all. Think about it. The Democrats on the other side of that fence were arguing against the wall, right? They were we don't want that wall. Like, y'all already gave them the wall.
Well, the thing for me is that the Democratic Party, 70% of Latinos vote Democrat, and now it's close to 30% Trump, and 30% of Latinos to about 28% of Latinos voted for Trump, 28 or 29%, and 70% of Latinos, if I actually speaking to two of my friends at a restaurant in LA who are dreamers, and I want them to be protected. But they actually were looking at it like Democrats are failing us, and they actually looked at Trump in a more positive light.
And it's sad because I know Black people who feel the same way. It's
say that again.
I know Black people who feel the same way, where they're like, I don't want to vote for Trump, but I'm not going to pretend like the Democrats are my friends because they're not. They failed us at every turn. If you are truly worried about the candidate that is going to, legitimately bolster minorities and shine a light on their legitimate plight, why not elect a candidate who would do that and has a history of it. But instead, you really put minorities in danger according to their logic, right? Trump is this dangerous demagogue and he's Hitler 2.0 and blah, 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 and which most of those are just not, I'm not going to lie. Trump doesn't have the competence to be Hitler. It was a damn genius. He was crazy, but that dude was on some other stuff. Trump has some of those qualities, but he's not even close. Okay. Even to the desire, like, I don't think Trump is even a horrible person. I think he's an idiot. He's a buffoon sometimes. I think he's easily influenced because of how much his brand means to him. I think that's what's important to him. But at the same time, Democrats pretend like this was the most evil man in the world. And instead of putting themselves in the best position to beat that evil man, what do? They put Hillary in that fight. They had to go against, Rocky Balboa, and then they go take some kid from the gym with 3 broken arms who hasn't, and put him in a round. Like, all right, go be Rocky.
So real quickly, I guess before we go, because I can speak to you forever. I mean, this has been amazing. What did you think of my debate with Richard Spencer?
Oh man. So I feel like it was I feel like y'all handled yourselves very well. It's hard for me to debate guys like that, obviously, because of my personal. I know what oppression is. It's real, and so it's a little bit difficult. And he will never know. He thinks he knows. It's kind of crazy to me, just listening to his logic or leaps in his logic, that he thinks that he is at all threatened or oppressed. There's still 80% of this nation white people are.
70%.
70%. So 70% of the nation, and they still hold the power. They still hold the money. They still hold the jobs. That, see, it's one thing if you're a black person, right? Yeah, you may, if you're like Jay-Z, right? One of Jay-Z's biggest problems is that he knows that he's almost a billionaire, but people still have to write checks for him, if that makes sense. He hires people, yeah, but people, in order for him to stay that rich, people have to hire checks for him, or write checks for him. So like, even still, white people dominantly write the checks in this country. But his points seemed there was this huge leaps in logic. So I know one of the main points that you brought up were the cultural implications, and because it's not just about cultural implications, it's about the economic realities of those cultural implications. One of the things that he says, like, oh, if you look at all the white countries, they just seem to have more success than the black nations. That's not true. In fact, a lot of African nations are super freaking rich, right? Like, if we can, as a matter of fact, they are so wealthy and so rich in resources and have done such a good job, using those resources in the confines of their country or their region, that they didn't need to go colonize. They were perfectly fine. They were doing pretty well for themselves, and they still are in a lot of places. It was the Europeans, just historically speaking, who had to go colonize in order to confiscate resources. You get what I'm saying? So you can't claim, oh, we need this ethno-white land. Okay, so let's just say, for history's sake, you never go to Africa. Where are you going to get all that gold from? Right? How are you going to, it just, the logic, such huge leaps, and just from when he said the thing about manifest destiny.
No, I mean, my whole thing is the last 20 minutes. So people who are watching in the chat of our segment right now, some of them are like, "Oh, should I watch it? Is it worth watching?" If you have 20 minutes to spare, I urge everyone to just watch the last 20 minutes, because I think the moral and ethical fireworks come out, and Mr. Spencer had to choose between saying, yeah, I would actually kill people.
Can I say one thing too? You notice, and this is something I've noticed often about anybody he talks to, he never actually says why he wants a quote unquote ethno-white country. He talks about his identity, right?
He explained why, but I didn't.
It's no, because he explains it. It's like a circular argument. Oh, I want an ethnic country. Why? Because I'm worried about extinction. Why are you worried about extinction? Who's trying to extinct you? Just look at us. We're being extinct right now. but how? Like, well, but look at us. And it's like, he doesn't actually answer. And it's like, you can tell there's this fear, and he keeps calling himself what, an identitarian. What does that mean? He is an American born in Boston, Massachusetts. What is your identity? Like, what's Spencer? So do you want to say that you're, the northern white, I guess, identity is your identity, or is it the southern white identity? Because remember, those are two very distinct identities, because with the South, a lot of that came from French cultural identity versus the English cultural identity that dominated in the Northeast and then evolved into like Italian and Irish and all that good stuff. Or are you talking about the Midwest identity that developed naturally in the mountains and the Appalachians? Like, what is he even referring to when he says an identitarian? Because as a Black person, I know exactly what my identity is. And even as a Black person in New York, or from New York and lived in the South, I can still communicate effectively and tell a Black person from the West Coast what my identity is, because we all have very similar experiences. Just like you, as a Jewish person, you know who your identity is as a Jewish person, because it's taken years of cultivation. You didn't steal your identity as a Jewish person. It was almost like bestowed upon you through legitimate experiences, interactions. But to pretend like, because he says, oh, I'm not a supremacist, and then he gives this boy BS right after, oh, but all these white countries were so successful. It's like, yeah, but
yeah, exactly. Well, there's the big issue. A couple big issues that I found. He said, well, there's a Black question. I said, there's no question. There's no Black question. So
there was no Black question. What was the, because here's the difference between,
then he said, which is very similar to, well, he said, look, I would be all for a program to ship Black people back to Africa. And I was like, nobody wants that program.
Nobody wants. This is my home.
Nobody wants the program.
You know what I'm saying? For all we know, my family might have been here longer than his. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like the points you were making, like slavery built the South.
That's what I spent a lot of time
like on. Let's talk about economically, right? We are 70% of the NFL, over 70% of the NBA. Do you understand how huge that both of those markets are? When it's the number one listened to genre right now is hip hop. So essentially what you're telling me is hip hop culture in the world is popular culture. So that is the dominant culture, and it wreaks havoc monetarily. Everybody, even, I don't want to say racist, but like in all those scenarios, even racists, they acknowledge the necessity. If you want, because I don't even want to get into whether or not it's right to be wrong, right or wrong to be racist. I don't give a damn about that. His hypotheticals don't make any type of sense. That's what I don't get.
Well,
it's like this. You see, it's like a fear on his face, and he doesn't know how to understand it, but he just doesn't want to compete. That's what it is. He's like, oh, I'll be willing to. First of all, Spencer wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight. Like, he says he's willing to do so. What he means is he wants someone else to do it. Like, there's no power in you didn't even legitimately take over Native Americans. You accidentally brought smallpox over, and they got killed off in that way. And then on top of that, you pretended to be friends with them and then stole their war tactics because yours weren't good enough to defeat them. There's no other culture has done that. And so that's what you want your identity to be, then that's, is what it is. But like, you can't pretend that white people have just ran superior countries when their entire existence has relied on stealing cultures, stealing identities in some cases, and then pretending it's theirs. We wouldn't even have the car without a Black man right now. A Black man invented the car. Henry Ford invented the what's it called? Assembly line. And he took credit for it and just didn't correct history. So to pretend as if, oh, we just had a white ethnic state the whole time, it would have been so much better.
I guess I urge everyone to watch the last 20 minutes, because the last 20 minutes I asked just a simple question, and I didn't even mean to give him a gotcha thing or make him look like he wanted to commit genocide. It just, if you own it, if you have your ethnic state, ethno-state, and there's and he's leading the ethno-state, and laws are passed that every non-white needs to leave the ethno-state, and if people don't leave, then what are you going to do? Are you going to forcibly remove them out? And if would that entail killing? And he would not answer the very simple question. Yes or no. He wouldn't say, yes, I would advocate forcibly removing non-whites, or he didn't say, no, I would not do so. So that's all. Yeah. I mean, the last 20 minutes is really the heart of the matter.
That said something to me, because it means that it's either you don't believe in what you're preaching, because I don't know if you heard him concede to you, because he even said, well, there's been a lot of white societies with ethnic people that live there, but the white people were still in charge. I'm like, really? Like where? You mean like the United States literally right now? Because that's what I don't know if you remember him saying that, because I know y'all were going back and forth, but he literally said, we don't have to remove the ethnic people. He said that, and said that there are societies where ethnic people have lived in dominantly white communities, and the white people still ran in communities. And I'm like, that's literally almost everywhere. If you get what I'm saying, like that's almost every Western nation. That's the United States currently. That is what you were trying to convey to him. It's like, what are you scared of?
One thing also is that his theories, and this is why I felt it was important, because there's too many people who are like, don't talk to him. But the slate and everybody on the left and the identity politics on the left are like, this man's the devil. But they keep on publicizing him. So it's like, if you're going to publicize alt-right, Nazis, nationalists, okay, simply, well, I think that what I did is defeat his argument in a civil debate. The last 20 minutes proves my point. If you cannot own it,
he instead of answering your questions, he just kind of like danced around them for why it was okay for him.
All I'm saying is that if you can't, like you said, like, my thing was, if you cannot own if you cannot own the statement, because the whole thing's hypothetical anyway, and he said, oh, well, it's a hypothetical. The whole thing is hypothetical. If you can't own the statement,
I can't answer a hypothetical question. What? Your whole yeah, I remember that.
My whole thing was, if you have the state that you want, there's going to be people who are not white. What do you do with those people? Do you kill them? He would not answer. If they don't leave, and if they're like, hey, I'm defending my home, and this is where I was born, and I will not leave, then what do you do? And he would not say I would forcibly remove them, like the Trail of Tears, or I would engage in killing them or whatever. But then he kind of said, well, wait a second, wouldn't you fight if China invaded the Pacific or the West Coast? And I'm like, what is that even? I'm not even talking about that.
Invading versus I live here, two different things. and I would issue this challenge to Spencer. You tell me one white country that has survived and has thrived and is considered a superpower, totally absent of minority influence or ethnic, if you will, or the Negro influence,
or without colonizing another country,
or without colonizing another country and confiscating the Negroes' resources, as you like to call us. You don't know who you are.
Germany lost 2 wars.
I want to say something like existentially, Richard Spencer has no idea who he is. And it became clearer to me in your debate, because I know he used to do a lot of, European, like, oh, we should have Europeans wouldn't like you. You're not European. Where would you go? They don't like you. Okay, you want a white culture. Okay, which white culture? Even white. So are you Irish culture, Scottish culture, Italian culture? Even they can admit that they would prefer their own culture as an Irishman than to try to even
Well, that's where I was gonna
white mean. He doesn't know who he is, and I think that bothers him. And so he created this quote unquote identitarian phase to put an intellectual cloak over the fact that he doesn't know who he is. It makes him extremely insecure. He's probably been an outcast his entire life because he doesn't know who he is. He couldn't walk around saying, I'm racist, or I'm scared that, people who I already feel like outcasts, and then the people who look like me are kind of not phasing out. Cause like I said, it's 70% of the population, but he doesn't have an identity, and therefore he identifies himself through trying to claim that there's a white identity. But even white people don't, like Southerns don't say, oh, it's a white Southern thing. They even know when they talk when I don't know how much I agree with it, but when they're talking about the Confederate flag, what do they say? It's a culture thing. A Southern culture. New York white people, they're usually Italian, or they have their culture specific to their ethnicity. California white people have a whole different culture. They're like Californians, and that's just their thing. Midwest, like, you don't know who you are. That's why you can never answer that question. And nobody's really posed that question. Like, okay, what is your definition of identitarianism? Like, what is your definition of white identity? He would never be able to answer that question. And so having a debate with him over that question, it's almost like, even though you won, because he conceded to you at the end, which was weird. I don't know why he did that. I think he thought that because he got so, like you said, you lulled him to sleep. He kept, oh, I'll concede that point. And then he accidentally conceded literally the overarching point, which is that you're still dominant right now, even though minorities make up a small portion of the country. You're still dominant right now. What is there to be afraid of? Like, and he also doesn't understand consequences to actions. He's like, there are white farmers right now having their lands taken away and given back to South Africans. Well, there's a reason for that, even though I don't necessarily agree with it in this current context. But I know that there's a reason for it, because it wasn't theirs. They have it because of the apartheid. They actually took that land originally from the Africans. And so what you're saying is you don't want to face the consequences for the actions that people who look like you took. And I have to face the consequences from actions of the people that look like you took every day. And I'm not race baiting. This is reality. And it's not even a race thing. It's a who had money first, because that's what it really comes down to, right? Black people didn't have money when we came to this country. Who had the money? If you look down at the economy, it was white males, right? And then black males-ish. And then white women kind of like went a little bit above that. And then everybody else kind of came along. So do you think white males stopped having money over time? No. JP Morgan and Chase is still here. Rockefellers are still rich. The Rothschilds are still rich. Bill Gates, he's super rich. But the people who are historically rich, their last names we still see every single day. So what are you talking about that you don't? But even those people, once again, they could be as racist as they want to. I don't give a damn. Because they at least recognize, remember the Clippers owner who was racist as hell? Donald Sterling. Guess how many of them black people he had on his team? The whole squad. And then your boy from Duke. I always forget his name, but the shooter from Duke. But yeah, you think that he was going to let his racism affect his bottom line? No, because even he understands the necessity of integration and using the specific advantages, whether it be cultural, what I feel is important in my culture. So basketball is very important in Black culture because it was a way to keep us out of trouble. It looked like a way out for us. So he understands that cultural implications have a significant or play a huge significance on your ability to earn a bottom line as a billionaire. And if he understood this as a person who is clearly racist, how can someone as
you froze up the feed is frozen now, but let's definitely go ahead, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you so much for watching, Niko. Let's definitely do this again. And the link to the Richard Spencer debate is 2 videos prior to this one, so check it out. And thank you so much for listening.